Welcome to the program. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko was in Washington, D.C. for his first official state visit with U.S. President Donald Trump. Looks like Ukrainian leader decided to play in advance and hold talks with President Trump ahead of G20 summit in Hamburg, scheduled for the beginning of July. So what should the two presidents talk about? Today we're joined in the studio by Olexiy Haran, who's a professor of comparative politics of the Kyiv-Mohyla University. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, prior to leaving for Washington, D.C., called the upcoming meeting extremely powerful. What did he mean by that?
Well, he meant that this is really important to have this meeting because this is a visit. This is a working visit to the United States. There would be a lot of different meetings, including not only President Trump, but also other high-level officials like Vice President Pence and Minister of Defense, Minister of Energy, Minister of Transportation, State Secretary. And Ukrainian delegation is also quite large, including Minister, for example, of Energy, Minister of Foreign Affairs. So I think this is really important for two reasons. First is symbolic reason. The second is substantial things. And substantially it means that there would be a possibility to deliver Ukrainian messages directly to President Trump before G20 meeting and meeting between Trump and Putin. And that would be really important to present Ukrainian arguments and to explain to President Trump why Ukraine matters for the United States. We know that the situation right now is very complicated at the front, and as far as I understand, there is an understanding, more understanding in the Western capitals about Ukrainian position and about Russia's role in destabilizing the situation in eastern Ukraine. So I think it would be really important not only for Ukraine, but also for President Trump to have more understanding about what's really going on in eastern Ukraine.
Is the hybrid war between Russia and Ukraine going to be the only topic in the agenda?
No, I think it would be better for President Poroshenko to talk not only about the war, not only about sanctions, not only about the possibility to get American lethal weapons, but also about economic potential of Ukraine and that this country could be interesting for business, including American business. So I think actually it should fit into Trump's famous slogan about America First, and explaining to Trump that it would be beneficial for the United States to support Ukraine, to have stable Ukraine, to support Ukrainian moving closer to Western standards, Western and European standards, and to potentially invest into Ukraine.
During the U.S. presidential campaign, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko openly and officially was supporting Hillary Clinton.
No, that's not
Would
the
it
case.
be a stumbling block on the way
actually, that's not the case.
Okay.
President Poroshenko never officially, supported Clinton. There were other, other players in Ukraine who expressed their more favorable, approach to Hillary.
But it wasn't President Poroshenko himself, never?
No. I think, no. President Poroshenko couldn't do this mistake because he's, he's quite qualified and he's a diplomat and he knows how to do things. So actually this position of some Ukrainian politicians could be explained because during the campaign, at that time, Mr. Trump, he made some announcements which looked quite disturbing from Ukrainian point of view. For example,
you mean that he would seek a deal with the Kremlin? Not
only he stated some unclear things about Crimea, about the will of Crimean people, the situation is not as simple as just, annexation of Crimea, and that was quite disturbing. I mean, not only for Ukrainian politicians, but also for Ukrainian experts and for Ukrainian civil society activists to whom I belong. So we were quite, discouraged by that. But after Trump was elected, all the experts, including myself, said that his position would evolve Because one thing is to say something during the campaign, and the other thing, you know, is to have realpolitik. And also there is support to Ukraine, bipartisan support to Ukraine in American Congress, including influential Republican leaders. And if we analyze the composition of Trump's administration, those people who were appointed as Minister of Defense, for example, or the head of the CIA, or other important people, they clearly expressed their concerns about Russia's aggressive behavior. They clearly stated that. So I think that the environment within the administration, I would say, quite favorable for understanding what Ukraine is and what Ukrainians want to have. The important thing is how to connect it with the viewpoint and outlook of President Trump, because we know that President Trump is not very much experienced in foreign policy issues,
yes.
and he's not interested in details. Okay, he's interested.
Nevertheless, U.S. government is already on the way of putting more pressure on Russia, since the U.S. Senate voted in favor for extending sanctions on Russia.
Correct, but it's not as simple as that, because the Senate, yes, approved the bill. But what is going to be now, it's to be discussed and approved in the House, and then it should be signed by Trump.
Yes.
So it's a process, and there could be some, you know, changes in the bill during this case. That's why it's very important to, and actually President Trump could use it as a bargaining chip in or before negotiations with Putin. Okay, so it's a game. One more thing, I need to make some reservations. So one thing is very good to have this meeting before Trump's meeting with Putin, but on the other hand, now President Trump may say, okay, I met with Poroshenko, I heard his arguments, now I have free hand, you know, to deal with Putin. And we don't know actually what could happen during these negotiations, because again, we know that President Trump can make contradictory statements, can change his mind, but having said that, I come again to my basic point. That's why this meeting is very important, because it's not only meeting with Trump, it's also meeting with his close
other high-profile officials.
It's close circle, and again, they will have a good understanding of the present Ukrainian position and what is going on. And that would put also some, I would say, how to put that, some restrictions, you know, some for maneuver in negotiations with Putin. So I hope that it will prevent from some statements which could be maybe some unclear statements which could be said, you know, when you have these meetings behind closed doors, which are not officially, you know, documented. So that's why, again, I'm saying that this is very important.
But do you think that Petro Poroshenko and the Ukrainian delegation in general would have a chance to persuade President Trump and his administration to put more pressure on Russia, or at least make Russia fulfill Minsk agreements?
Well, we don't know that, okay? We don't know what would happen. It's politics, you know, and in politics you can have, you know, different scenarios. But again, I think that this gives more possibility for Ukrainian side to explain our position. One thing is actually really important. When we are talking about implementation of Minsk agreements, I believe now the West actually understands very clearly Ukrainian position, that security first and only then political solutions. And when we analyze the situation right now, it's very clear who is violating the agreement. Russia is violating.
Really?
So actually it gives more substance, you know, to Ukrainian position and to understanding of Ukrainian position in the West. One very interesting thing is that before this visit, State Secretary Tillerson, he said that actually the search for the solution of the conflict is not limited by Minsk agreements. And this is very important, because actually, you know...
What else then?
Again, we don't know exactly, because these negotiations are behind closed doors, but we know what experts are saying, what public is demanding, including in Ukraine. Ukrainian public, Ukrainian experts would like United States to directly participate in the negotiations, to be present at the table. Now, United States are very active in Minsk process, but they are not formally.
Officially.
They are not formally. It's kind of consultation and etc. So what does it mean? Perhaps there could be some discussion about Geneva format is possible, because Geneva was the first format which emerged in May 2014, and the United States participated in that. Then, potentially, there could be a meeting within the sides who signed Budapest Memorandum, which includes the United States, UK, and Russia. So these are potential options. Again, I don't think that now any side would say, okay, now we are going out from Minsk agreements. No, because Minsk agreements now are the only one which regulate somehow the situation. Yes, but there could be search, for other formats and for other potential diplomatic solutions as well.
What do you think the reaction of Russia, or particularly the Kremlin, would be to Poroshenko's first visit to the U.S. ahead of G20 summit?
We know already Russian reaction. Russian reaction is they try to downplay, to downgrade the importance of this meeting. So that's understandable. But definitely they look very careful of what's going on. Again, I can give you examples that it was very important when Minister of Foreign Affairs, Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Lavrov, was in Washington, but Trump also met with Ukrainian Foreign Minister, Mr. Klimkin, and there is a photo of Klimkin and Trump in the Oval Cabinet. So again, it means that America is trying, not just to pursue Moscow first road, but to take into account Ukrainian position. And I would say that it seems that in some cases the position of present American administration could be harder for Russia than the previous one. Again, there was no, such kind of meeting with President Obama, for example. No.
So this is a clear sign that Ukraine might come out as a victor out of this conflict after President Poroshenko meeting with President Trump.
As a victor?
Yeah.
That's more complex. I would like to have such, such a prospect. But again, we need to be realistic. We understand that the road is very long. And the main thing also to win the case is not only diplomatic support from the West regarding the conflict, but is also the support from the West regarding the transformations in Ukraine. That's very important. That's what I've said again. So it's important to create a secure business environment in Ukraine in order to attract foreign investments. And actually to explain to Western businessmen that it's not this war in Ukraine, in the heart of Ukraine. No, it's the war in the far east, I would say, far east of Ukraine, small part of the country. Definitely it diverts a lot of our sources, and that's why it's important for us to stop or at least to freeze, the conflict. But at the same time, I believe it's very important for businessmen, for journalists, for experts from the West just to come to Kyiv, to other places of Ukraine, to look around and to see this is peaceful.
For themselves.
This is peace, here in Ukraine. So Ukrainians are working. This is normal life. It's possible to invest. And I believe also that's a really important message which could be delivered.
Thank you so much for clarifying all that to our audience. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me here.
That was Olexiy Haran, who is a professor of comparative politics of the Kyiv-Mohyla University. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.